galactic high chamber hummed with the low-frequency vibrations of 100 different species conversing in their native tongues. The massive domed hall, crafted from shimmering alloy that refracted light like liquid metal, stretched upward into a vaulted ceiling where holographic displays of star systems slowly rotated. Representatives from dozens of civilizations filled the tiered seating, their bioluminescent skins, chitinous exoskeletons, and floating sensory orbs creating a kaleidoscope of alien biology. At the smallest table, near the chamber's edge, sat Admiral Marcus Kane. His plain black uniform stood in stark contrast to the glowing robes and intricate armor of the other delegates. A jagged scar ran from his temple to his jawline, a souvenir from the Outer Rim skirmishes that the Federation had conveniently forgotten. He kept his hands folded on the table, his posture relaxed, but his steel, grey eyes missed nothing. High Prelate Vexis of the Zepyrian Dominion rose from his elevated platform, his golden exoskeleton catching the light as he spread his forearms in a gesture of magnanimity. "The vote is called," he announced, his voice a smooth, condescending baritone that echoed through the chamber. "The Great Armada initiative requires the strongest fleets, the most advanced technology we cannot afford to carry dead weight." A ripple of agreement spread through the assembly. Chancellor Droth of the Vorak hierarchy clacked his mandibles together, a sound that translated as amusement through the universal translators. "The humans have, 3 dozen ships, most of them retrofitted mining vessels." His bulbous eyes swiveled toward Kane. "No offense, Admiral, but your people are quaint." Laughter echoed through the chamber. Kane didn't flinch. He had expected this. Vexis tapped a clawed digit against the voting console. The motion to exclude humanity from the initiative has been seconded. "All in favor?" A sea of glowing sigils lit up across the chamber. Unanimous, Kane exhaled slowly. He had his orders, play the part. Let them believe what they wanted. Vexis smirked, his antennae twitching with satisfaction. "It is nothing personal, Admiral, but the Zepyrian Dominion alone fields over 800 capital ships. The Vorak hierarchy, 1,200. What can a few rusting human vessels contribute to the defense of the galaxy?" More laughter. Kane allowed himself a small, humorless smile. "You're right, High Prelate. We wouldn't want to embarrass you with our primitive technology." Droth leaned forward, his carapace clicking. "Oh, we're well past embarrassment, Admiral. This is about survival. The Scourge fleets are coming, and when they do, you'll be grateful we didn't let your people get in the way." Kane stood, his chair sliding back silently. "Is that all?" Vexis waved a dismissive hand. "Unless you have some miracle to unveil. Yes, the Council has spoken." Kane nodded. He tapped a command into his wrist console. A single encrypted burst of data shot through the quantum network, traveling faster than light to a waiting fleet hidden in the dark between stars. "Then I'll take my leave," he said as he walked toward the exit. The whispers followed him. Pathetic. "They'll be the first to fall when the Scourge arrives. Soft-skinned mammals. What did they expect?" Kane kept walking. Let them talk. The doors hissed shut behind him, sealing away the laughter. Out in the corridor, his comlink buzzed. A familiar voice crackled through. "Admiral, they took the bait." Kane allowed himself a real smile this time. "Good. Hold position, Captain Vasquez. Let's see how long it takes them to realize their mistake." The line went dead. Somewhere in the void, the USN Shadowblade and her sister ships waited, silent, invisible. "Ready?" The void near Proxima Centauri was silent, save for the faint hum of the USN Shadowblade's engines running at minimal power. Captain Elena Vasquez leaned back in her command chair, fingers drumming against the armrest. The bridge was dim, lit only by the soft glow of holographic displays. Her crew moved with quiet efficiency. Their voices hushed as if speaking too loudly might break the ship's perfect cloak. "Status report," Vasquez murmured. Lieutenant Chen adjusted the sensor feed on his console. "Zepyrian frigate Golden Talon is scanning the sector. Captain standard patrol pattern, Their sensors haven't so much as twitched in our direction. A slow smirk curled Vasquez's lips. Good, let's keep it that way. The Shadow Blade was a ghost. Its adaptive camouflage didn't just bend light. It absorbed and mimicked cosmic radiation, rendering it invisible to even the most advanced alien sensor arrays. To the Xiperians, this patch of space was empty. On the main view screen, the Golden Talon gleamed like a jewel, its golden hull reflecting the distant light of Proxima Centauri. It was a sleek, arrogant ship, all curves and shimmering plating, designed to intimidate as much as to fight. Commander Krell's voice crackled over an open channel, his tone dripping with condescension. Golden Talon to Dominion Command. Sector Phi B is clear. No human presence detected again. A pause, then a derisive chuckle. Not that we expected any. Their ships can barely make it past Mars without breaking down. Vasquez's fingers stilled. Her crew exchanged glances, some rolling their eyes, others tightening their grips on their consoles. Think they'd notice if we tapped their comms. Ensign Rivera muttered. Not a chance, Vasquez said. Their encryption is a joke. Patch me through to the Stormbreaker quietly. A moment later, Lieutenant Jake Riker's face appeared on a secondary screen, his grin sharp. Captain, you getting tired of listening to these guys too? Just keeping tabs, Vasquez said. How's the Stormbreaker holding up? Riker's fighter squadron was hidden deeper in the asteroid field, their own stealth systems active. Bored out of our minds, these Vorak clowns haven't even glanced our way. It's like they want to be ambushed. Vasquez exhaled through her nose. Stay sharp. The second they make a move toward Epsilon Eridani, we hit them hard. Riker saluted with pleasure. The channel closed, and Vasquez turned her attention back to the Golden Talon. Krell was still broadcasting, now bragging to his crew about how the Xiperian Dominion would soon claim human territories as protectorates. Protectorates, Vasquez repeated under her breath. That's a fancy word for conquest. Lieutenant Chen cleared his throat. Captain, we're picking up a new transmission. The Golden Talon is reporting back to High Prelate Vexis directly. Vasquez straightened, put it on speakers. Krell's voice filled the bridge, smug and self-assured. High Prelate, I assure you. There's nothing to worry about. The humans have no presence here. Their so-called fleet is a myth. Rusting cargo haulers with guns bolted on. If that. A pause. Then Vexis' reply, smooth and patronizing. Excellent work, Commander. The Federation will be pleased to hear of your thoroughness. Vasquez's jaw tightened. She glanced at her tactical officer. How long until the Vorak fleet reaches Epsilon Eridani? 6 hours, give or take, the officer replied. They're moving slow. Probably think they've got all the time in the world. Good. Vasquez leaned forward, her voice low. Let them think that. For hours, the Shadow Blade drifted, a silent sentinel. The crew rotated shifts, but Vasquez remained on the bridge, watching, waiting. The Golden Talon completed 3 more sweeps of the sector, each time declaring it empty. Each time, Krell's voice growing more dismissive. Then, finally, the alert they'd been waiting for. Captain, Chen snapped. Vorak fleet just jumped into the system. They're heading straight for Epsilon Eridani. Vasquez didn't smile, didn't flinch. She simply tapped her comm. Riker, you're up. Somewhere in the darkness, the Stormbreaker's engines flared to life. Krell's voice crackled over the open channel again. Oblivious. Dominion Command. This is Golden Talon. The Vorak have arrived. No sign of human interference, as expected. Vasquez finally let herself smirk. Oh, Commander Krell, she murmured. You really should have looked harder. The first torpedo struck the Golden Talon's shields before Krell even finished his sentence. The Vorak invasion fleet emerged from warp space in perfect formation, their obsidian hulls bristling with plasma cannons. Battlemaster Gorath's flagship, the Dreadclaw, led the Armada toward Epsilon Eridani's orbital defenses. His mandibles clicked in satisfaction as targeting scanners painted the human colony below. Pathetic, Gorath growled over the command channel. Their shields are barely planetary grade. Begin bombardment protocols. A chorus of affirmations echoed from his subordinate ships. The Dreadclaw's main cannon hummed to life, its core glowing crimson as it charged. Lieutenant Jake Riker's hands danced across the Stormbreaker's controls, his stealth fighter clinging to the shadow of an asteroid. His squadron, the Ghostwolves, were scattered across the sector, invisible, silent, waiting. All units, confirm lock, Riker whispered into his helmet mic. One by one, green status lights flickered on his display. 12 stealth torpedoes, each the size of a ground car, had drifted undetected into the heart of the Vorak formation. Their magnetic clamps secured them to enemy hulls. Fire in the hole, Riker said. The torpedoes detonated in perfect sync. The Dreadclaw lurched violently as its starboard engine nacelle vanished in a fireball. Gorath slammed into the command console, his exoskeleton cracking against the metal. Alarms shrieked as secondary explosions rippled through the fleet. What hit us? Gorath roared. Unknown weapons signature, a Vorak technician screeched. No energy readings, no missile trails. Riker's fighter streaked out of the asteroid's shadow, railgun charging. His targeting computer painted the Dreadclaw's bridge. Fox 2, Riker said, and pulled the trigger. The tungsten round punched through the flagship's weakened shields like they weren't even there. The bridge viewport shattered inward, atmosphere and Vorak crew sucked into the void. Gorath had half a second to see the human fighter banking away before the decompression took him. Across the battlefield, the Ghostwolves emerged from hiding. Railgun rounds tore through Vorak escorts, their kinetic energy bypassing shield harmonics entirely. A Zephyrian frigate, the Golden Talon, veered wildly as its commander tried to make sense of the carnage. "Report!" Commander Krell barked from his own ship. "Where are these attacks coming from?" "Scanners show nothing," his sensor officer cried. "The humans are the Golden Talon's port side, vanished in a hail of railgun fire." Krell's ship spun out of control, its artificial gravity failing. On the USN Shadowblade, Captain Elena Vasquez watched the chaos unfold. Her stealth cruiser's adaptive camouflage shimmered as it absorbed sensor pulses. "Target the remaining capital ships," she ordered. "Disable their warp drives. Let's see how they like being stranded." Her weapons officer grinned. "Aye, Captain." Firing solution locked. The Shadowblade's ventral railguns cycled up, their magnetic coils humming. 3 shots, 3 direct hits. The Vorak fleet's retreat options evaporated as their FTL systems sparked and died. A panicked Zephyrian transmission cut through the interference. "This is Commander Krell of the Golden Talon. We are under attack by unseen forces. Request immediate." The signal cut off as another railgun round found its mark. Riker banked hard, dodging a spray of plasma fire from a surviving Vorak destroyer. His wingman, Lieutenant Chen, whooped over the comms. "Did you see that? They're shooting blind." "Stay sharp," Riker said. "They're not done yet." The remaining Vorak ships clustered together, their overlapping shields creating a temporary barrier, a desperate move, one that left them open to the Shadowblade's next trick. Vasquez nodded to her tactical officer, "Deploy the scramblers." A dozen canisters launched from the cruiser's ventral bays, detonating in a cloud of nanites. The microscopic machines latched onto Vorak shield projectors, rewriting their frequency algorithms in real time. The overlapping shields flickered, failed. "All Ghostwolves," Riker said. "Weapons free." The human fighters dove as one, railguns blazing. Vorak hulls split open like ripe fruit. Escape pods jettisoned in panic, their occupants screaming as they realized no one was coming to save them. Aboard the Shadowblade, Vasquez leaned back in her chair. "Send a tight beam to Admiral Kane. Tell him Epsilon Eridani is secure." Her comms officer hesitated. "The Zephyrian fleet is still out there, Captain. They'll have seen this." Vasquez smiled. "Let them see. Let them tell the whole damn Federation what happens when you underestimate us." In the wreckage of the Dreadclaw, a single Vorak survival pod activated its distress beacon. The automated message repeated on all frequencies, a warning to any who might hear it. Human weapons ignore our shields. Their ships cannot be detected. They were waiting for us. The pod drifted silently, its lone occupant staring at the burning remains of the once proud Armada. Somewhere in the dark, the Stormbreaker's engines glowed as it circled back for another pass. Riker's voice crackled over the open channel, calm and deadly. "Any last words, Vorak?" The pod's occupant had none. The galactic high chamber's holographic displays flickered with reports from Epsilon Eridani. High Prelate Vexis's bioluminescent stripes pulsed crimson with irritation as his command staff scrambled to interpret the data. "Explain this," he demanded, slamming a clawed fist on the polished obsidian table. "Vorak ships don't just explode without cause." Across the chamber, Admiral Marcus Kane remained still. His calloused fingers traced the edge of his datapad, the only human in a sea of panicking aliens. The scar running from his temple to jaw twitched as he suppressed a smile. "Prelate," a Zephyrian sensor officer's antennae trembled. "We're detecting mass signatures, thousands of them, appearing across the Centauri approach vector." Vexis's dorsal spines flared. "Impossible. Our scans showed empty space." The chamber's main viewer activated without command. Every alien representative gasped as the starfield rippled like disturbed water. First one, then 100, then countless angular black warships shimmered into existence. Their matte, black hulls drank the starlight, making them look like jagged holes cut from reality itself. Kane stood slowly, his boots clicking against the chamber floor. "You asked what Earth's fleet could contribute." His voice carried the weight of tectonic plates shifting. "Allow me to demonstrate." On the viewer, the largest human vessel, a monstrous dreadnought designated USN Titan, activated its primary weapon. A sphere of distorted space-time gathered at its prow, bending light around it like a gravitational lens. Federation science officers screamed warnings in a dozen languages. Singularity Cannon at Faycharge reported a calm human voice over the comms. Chancellor Droth's bioluminescent skin turned ghostly white. You can't possibly control that technology." Kane adjusted his uniform collar. "We've had it for 15 years. He nodded to the viewer. "Watch." The Titan fired. Space itself seemed to tear along the projectile's path. A Vorak battleship, the same class that had mocked human vessels as primitive mere hours earlier, twisted like taffy before collapsing into itself. The implosion took 3 neighboring ships with it. Vexis's mandibles clicked uncontrollably. "All fleets, defensive formation, scramble every, belay that order." Kane's voice cut through the chaos. He tapped his wristcom. "Admiral to Shadowblade, light them up." Deep in the Zephyrian fleet's formation, the USN Shadowblade dropped its camouflage directly behind Vexis's flagship. Captain Elena Vasquez's face appeared on every screen in the chamber. "Zephyrian vessel Dusk Razor. This is a courtesy warning. Our targeting lasers have painted your bridge. Any hostile action will be met with immediate elimination." Commander Krell's shocked face appeared on a secondary feed from his frigate. "They were beside us this whole time. Our sensors showed nothing." Across the emerging battlefield, human ships moved with terrifying coordination. Railgun batteries fired in synchronized volleys, their hypersonic rounds punching clean through energy shields that had repelled plasma fire for centuries. Fighter squadrons weaved through alien formations, their pilots executing maneuvers that defied known physics. A Cerealian science officer collapsed to his knee. Equivalents. Their inertial dampeners. They shouldn't be able to sustain those G-forces. Kane walked to the chamber's central podium. Every eye followed him. The Great Armada initiative sought to unite the galaxy's militaries. He activated a fleet-wide broadcast. Humanity stands ready to lead. The Titan's second singularity shot obliterated a Zephyrian orbital fortress. The shockwave sent debris spinning into the remaining Vorak lines. "Cease fire!" Vexis shrieked. His once proud crest now lay flat against his skull. "In the name of the Federation, Stop this madness. Kane folded his hands behind his back. You wanted to see Earth's fleet. On the viewer, 10,000 human warships powered weapons in unison. Their reactor signatures lit up the tactical display like a new constellation. Here it is. A Vorak communications officer suddenly stood, his translator implant glitching with panic. Chancellor, the human vessels. They're not just in this system. Our deep space probes show identical fleets appearing at every major Federation hub. Droth's breathing orifices sealed shut in terror. You had this many ships hidden. Kane allowed himself a thin smile. No, we built them while you weren't looking. He turned to the frozen assembly. The vote to exclude humanity has been reconsidered, I trust. Outside the chamber windows, the last Vorak dreadnought broke apart under concentrated railgun fire. Its dying reactor cast flickering light across Kane's face, illuminating the first human smile many aliens had ever seen. The holographic displays in the Federation Council chambers flickered wildly, casting jagged blue light across the panicked faces of dozens of species. Chancellor Droth's bioluminescent skin had faded to a sickly grey, the Vorak equivalent of a human going pale. His four-fingered hands trembled as they hovered over the emergency broadcast controls. Dr. Lisa Hayes adjusted her glasses, watching the chaos unfold with detached fascination. The xenopsychologist had been stationed on Cententrum Prime for 6 months, studying alien reactions to stress. Now she was witnessing the mother of all stress tests. Impossible, screeched High Prelate Vexis, his Zephyrian crest flaring crimson. Our sensors showed no fleet buildup, no shipyards, no. A massive explosion flared across the central hollow, display as the USN Titan's singularity cannon tore through the last Zephyrian battleship. The shockwave sent debris spinning into the gravity well of Epsilon Eridani's third moon. Hayes tapped her datapad, recording Droth's reaction. The Vorak Chancellor had collapsed into his Xuan Fu Yi, his usually vibrant purple stripes now awashed out lavender. Fascinating, Hayes murmured to herself. First contact scenarios never account for this level of systemic shock. Nearby, a Cerelian diplomat's floating orbs darted about in frantic patterns. They hid all this, for how long? Hayes cleared her throat. Approximately 43 Earth years according to our declassified records. She swiped her pad, pulling up schematics. The first stealth cruisers entered service in Faye. The Singularity Weapons program began in... This isn't a damned history lesson. Vexis slammed a clawed fist on the console, cracking the reinforced crystal surface. They deceived the entire Federation. Hayes allowed herself a small smile. No, High Prelate, you deceived yourselves. She gestured to the displays where human ships moved with terrifying precision. We filed 17 separate requests to demonstrate our capabilities, all denied. The chamber's main doors hissed open, revealing a harried-looking Octavian messenger. Emergency report from the Vorak frontier. The Dreadclaw's wreckage has been located. We know. Droth finally found his voice, though it came out as a strained whisper. By the void, we know. Hayes watched as the Vorak Chancellor accessed a private terminal with shaking hands. His security clearance brought up classified Federation reports. Decades of human military expenditure carefully logged and ignored. You built all this in secret. Droth's voice cracked. Hayes nodded. Not secret, just unnoticed. She zoomed in on a tactical display where Captain Vasquez's Shadowblade danced between two Zephyrian cruisers, delivering pinpoint railgun strikes to their engines. Your analysts assumed primitive species couldn't develop advanced technology without outside help. A new alert blared across the chamber. The holograms shifted to show Admiral Kane's face, his scarred features calm as he addressed the entire Federation. Cease all hostilities immediately. Kane's voice boomed through the chamber's speakers. Any further aggression will be met with overwhelming force. Vexis made a strangled noise. They can't possibly... The display split, showing real-time footage from 12 different battlefronts. Human ships stood untouched amid burning alien fleets. The Titan's main cannon glowed ominously as it powered up for another shot. Hayes observed the exact moment when realization dawned across the chamber. The Cerellian's orbs froze mid-rotation. The Vespidian delegates' exoskeletons dulled to a defeated brown. Even the normally unflappable Octavian counselors had their tentacles coiled tightly in distress. Droth finally spoke, his voice hollow. "What do they want?" Hayes closed her datapad with a quiet click. "Nothing you weren't willing to give others. A seat at the table. Respect." She nodded toward the view screen where Kane waited for a response, and maybe an apology. The chamber fell silent except for the crackle of dying starships on the displays. Somewhere in the background, a human newsfeed played, a crowd cheering on Earth as footage of the battle spread. Hayes allowed herself one final observation before the emergency session resumed. "They thought we were weak," she whispered to no one in particular. "Now they know we just didn't need to show off." A junior Vorakade nearby whimpered, his bioluminescence flickering like a dying light. Hayes made a note to study prolonged shock responses later. For now, she had front-row seats to the greatest power shift in galactic history. The main hologram zoomed in on Admiral Kane's face as he delivered his ultimatum around Hayes. Dozens of alien species held their breath, finally understanding what humanity truly was. Not primitive, not weak, just patient. The bridge of the USN Titan hummed with quiet efficiency, the crew moving with the precision of a well-oiled machine. Admiral Marcus Kane stood at the center, his scarred hands clasped behind his back as he watched the holographic displays flicker with the aftermath of the battle. The remnants of the Zephyrian fleet scattered like leaves in a storm, their golden hulls scorched and broken. The Vorak ships fared no better. What remained of their once proud armada limped toward the nearest jump point, their commanders too stunned to even issue a proper retreat order. Kane allowed himself a small, grim smile. "Open a channel," he said, his voice low but carrying the weight of command. "All frequencies, Galactic Standard Broadcast." The comm officer nodded, fingers dancing across the console. "Channel open, sir. You're live to the entire Federation." Kane straightened, his reflection shimmering in the polished metal of the bulkhead. He had waited years for this moment. "High Prelate Vexis," he began, his voice cutting through the static like a blade. "Chancellor Droth, members of the Federation Council." A pause, deliberate. "You wanted to see Earth's fleet, now you have." On the view screen, the image of Vexis flickered to life. The Zephyrian's bioluminescent markings pulsed erratically, his usually pristine robes torn and singed. His mandibles twitched, a sign of distress among his kind. This is impossible," Vexis hissed. "Your technology, your ships, they should not exist." Kane chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "And yet here we are." In the Federation Council chambers, chaos reigned. Holograms of the battle played on loop, human warships materializing from nowhere, their weapons tearing through shields like they weren't even there. Droth, the Vorak Chancellor, stood frozen, his massive frame trembling. His skin, usually a vibrant crimson, had paled to a sickly pink, a Vorak sign of sheer terror. Dr. Lisa Hayes observed it all from her station aboard the Titan, her fingers tapping idly against her datapad. She had spent years studying alien psychology, predicting their reactions. This was better than she could have imagined. "They thought we were weak," she murmured to herself, recording notes. "Now they know we just didn't need to show off." Back on the bridge, Kane continued. "For decades, humanity has been dismissed, mocked, excluded from your Great Armada initiative, because our ships were rusting hulks, because we lacked strategic value." His voice hardened. "Today, you learned the truth." A new image appeared on the screen, the wreckage of the Dreadclaw, Vorak Battlemaster Gorath's flagship, now little more than molten debris. "You came to Epsilon Eridani expecting an easy victory," Kane said. "Instead, you found a reckoning." Vexis's mandibles clicked rapidly, his voice rising in pitch. You deceived us. This was a trap." Kane's smile didn't reach his eyes. No, prelate. This was a demonstration. Across the galaxy, billions watched. The Zephyrian Dominion's propaganda networks scrambled to cut the feed, but it was too late. The images were already spreading, human ships, untouched, victorious. The Titan's singularity cannon, a weapon no alien science could explain, let alone counter. In the council chambers, Droth finally found his voice. "What do you want, Kane?" he growled, his words slurred by fear. Kane tilted his head. "Nothing more than what we've always wanted. A seat at the table. Respect." His gaze hardened. "The next time you vote on humanity's place in this galaxy, remember today." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving silence in its wake aboard the Shadowblade. Captain Elena Vasquez leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. On her screen, Commander Krell, now a prisoner in her brig, stared blankly at the floor, his golden exoskeleton dull with defeat. "How?" Krell muttered, more to himself than to her. "How did we not see this?" Vasquez smirked. "Because you never look." Outside, the stars burned cold and bright. The wreckage of the Great Armada initiative drifted, a graveyard of alien arrogance. And for the first time in history, the galaxy held its breath. The age of human deference was over. The bridge of the USN Shadowblade hummed with quiet efficiency, the crew moving with the practiced ease of those who had just won a war without breaking a sweat. Captain Elena Vasquez leaned back in her command chair, watching the starfield on the main view screen. The burning wreckage of the Zephyrian and Vorak fleets drifted in the distance, twisted metal and shattered hulls glowing faintly against the void. Behind her, the armored doors hissed open. Two Marines escorted Commander Krell into the room, his once pristine golden exoskeleton now scorched and cracked. His antennae drooped, a sign of defeat among his kind. The Marines shoved him forward, and he stumbled, catching himself on the edge of a console. Vasquez didn't turn. "Enjoying the view, Commander." Krell's mandibles twitched. "This isn't over." She finally swiveled to face him, one eyebrow raised. "Isn't it? Your fleet's in pieces, your high prelates begging for cease, fire terms, and your precious Great Armada initiative." She gestured to the wreckage outside. "Looks pretty great to me." The crew chuckled. Krell's exoskeleton darkened with frustration. "You hid," he spat. "Cowards, you didn't fight with honor." Vasquez stood, her boots clicking against the deck as she closed the distance between them. "Honor?" She tilted her head. "You mean like when your honorable Federation voted to exclude us? Like when your honorable fleets laughed at our rusting ships?" She smirked. "We didn't hide, Krell. We just didn't need to show off until you forced our hand." Krell's claws flexed, but the Marines tightened their grip. On the view screen, the USN Titan loomed into view, its massive hull scarred but unbroken. Admiral Kane's face appeared on the comms display, his grizzled features set in grim satisfaction. "Captain Vasquez, status report. Prisoner secured, Admiral. Rest of the sector's clear." Kane nodded. "Good. Bring him to the Titan." "The Council's waiting." Krell's antennae stiffened. "The Council?" Vasquez grinned. "Oh, didn't you hear? They've called an emergency session. Seems they've got some revisions to make to their little vote." The Titan's detention block was colder than Krell expected. Human ships weren't supposed to have this kind of infrastructure. Clean, efficient, advanced. Another miscalculation. He sat in the interrogation room, his claws tapping against the table. The door opened and Admiral Kane stepped in, followed by Dr. Lisa Hayes. The xenopsychologist carried a datapad, her expression unreadable. Kane took the seat across from him. "You're wondering how we did it," Krell hissed. "You cheated," Hayes snorted. "Cheated? By being smarter than you." She tapped her pad, pulling up schematics. "Your sensors scan for energy signatures. Ours don't emit any. Your shields block plasma. Ours use kinetic rounds that ignore them." She leaned in. "You didn't underestimate us, Krell. You failed to understand us." Kane crossed his arms, and now the entire Federation knows the truth. Krell's exoskeleton paled. What truth? That humanity doesn't play by your rules. Kane stood. We never needed your approval. We just let you think we did. The council chambers were in chaos. Holograms flickered with battle footage. Human ships decloaking. Vorak dreadnoughts exploding. Zepyrian retreats. High Prelate Vexis stood at the center, his once proud carapace now dull with shock. Chancellor Droth's bioluminescent skin flickered erratically, a Vorak sign of distress. This changes nothing, he growled. Admiral Kane's voice cut through the noise. It changes everything. Every screen in the chamber switched to his feed. He stood on the Titan's bridge, the might of Earth's fleet visible behind him. The Great Armada initiative is dead. The Federation's arrogance is dead. His gaze hardened, but humanity were just getting started. Vexis' mandibles trembled. What do you want? Kane smiled. A seat at the table, a real one. Back on the Shadow Blade. Vasquez watched the stars. The comms crackled. Kane's final transmission to the galaxy. The next time you vote on humanity's place in this galaxy, remember today, she exhaled, satisfied. Krell, now in restraints nearby, muttered. How did we not see this? Vasquez didn't look at him, because you never looked. Outside, the wreckage of the old order burned, and the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.